Here we go.
Hey everybody, Riot Mort here, and it is time for the patch 16.4 rundown. Now, normally I'd be joined by Tim, but unfortunately in my rush of getting home and not pressing the buttons right, we ended up recording a patch rundown that looked like this. With patch rundowns, I'm joined by Tim. Tim, how you doing? As you can see, Tim has no audio. That's my fault. So if you're wondering why Tim isn't here for this, it's because I didn't want to force him to record a second one. That's my bad. I'm owning up on that. Sorry, Tim. So instead, you get stuck with a second one of just me. I'm going to run through it solo. I'm going to cover a lot of Tim's notes as well, but definitely want to make sure Tim gets credit here. You know, good patch on Tim's side, but that's my bad. So anyway, here we go. Here's the actual rundown. Sorry about that.
All right, no worries.
Patch 16.3. We launched that. Acel ended up being dominating. We had to B-patch it, you know, nerfing him, buffing Bilgewater. After that, we ended up in generally a pretty good spot until the end game. After the end game, what would happen is 3-star forecasts became the big thing, and everyone, especially at the highest elos, with everyone doing it, enabled each other and became a little rough. Recording this on Friday, you would have seen, you know, at the tournament how many there are. This will be live for you on Sunday, so hopefully that's what you're seeing as well, but not the best. So this patch is going to be mostly buffs and system changes to try to open up diversity and get us away from that everybody 3-starring forecasts and open up more lines.
Level 9, baby.
On the system side, level 7 odds are going to go up for 3 costs by 3% here. This is if you try to reroll things like Draven or LeBlanc or Jinx or things like that, it will be more consistent. Right now, it's just a little too risky to do this. So hopefully this will help 3-cost reroll be a thing, as well as some buffs that they're getting a little later.
Those are good odds.
In addition, we talked about how there's a big tension sometimes where you hit level 8, you do your roll down, you get your comp, and then you're left with a decision. Do you go to 9 to try to get the 5 costs, or maybe do you try to greed it and not even do your level 8 roll down and skip to 9? So there's a tension there, and we thought we were in a pretty good spot, but with some of the econ augments in general, we had nerfed it last patch, and that ended up being a mistake. You know, we own up to that. So in addition to some of the augment nerfs that you're going to see a little later, we're going to be pulling that back. So you're going to have, it'll be 8 XP cheaper to go to 9. So that's going to be the thing. So hopefully that will enable more people to go to 9 more often, get them some of those 5 costs, a few that have been buffed as well. And so that should be a line. And then finally, on the unlock changes, Kennen, this will make it a little easier to get Kennen if you're not literally playing Vertical Yordle or Ionia.
Thank goodness.
So 1 less star level required.
Oh my gosh.
And then for Bilgewater, after the Serpent nerf with Tempo Bilgewater, Tom Kench is coming online just a little later than we'd like.
Okay.
This should help Vertical Bilgewater, as well as it's just fun to get an early Tom Kench and start feeding him. So hopefully this helps get Tom Kench out there and make him still very fun to play.
I mean, these are just good changes. Is anybody against this idea? I mean, the thing that is concerning is with the odds are pretty high. What I say is potentially concerning is if 3 costs end up being good, these odds are like very, very good for 3 costs. So it could end up being, instead of everyone rolling for 4 costs, it could be everyone rolling for 3 costs. But I mean, I don't think we're, at least based off what I've seen or heard about, I don't think we're going to get there. It's not like people are going to be like, wow, well, now I'm just going to get Darius 3 for free. I don't think anyone's saying that. So we'll see. And then, of course, these are good changes overall. If anything, Mort was on the stream earlier talking about how they've only been really making unlocks easier. And I think that's been good. I think more flexibility around the unlocking is preferred as opposed to some of the more rigid ones. I'm okay with some rigid ones existing, like the Shadow Wilds and the Silas stuff, the Silas questing probably could be loosened up a tiny bit, but for the most part, it's very thematic and it's okay, I think, with a roster size of 100.
On the trait side, Ionia, Path of Blades, we're trying not to go too big a buff here because this stat in particular can get pretty variant. Like especially it can like chain on itself pretty hard.
Yes.
But it is going to get a small buff at 5 and 7, so that if you see this line, you don't feel like you can't play Yunara. Should help. Gunslinger's a trait that never really felt worth actively pursuing. So we're going to give it a 2% buff at 2 and a 5% buff at 4. This will also be a buff to champions like Misfortune, Senna, but even Tristana. So hopefully that makes these a little bit more playable. And then Piltover. Piltover has been seeing some play. We're trying to do some very light touches here to Piltover. So Blast Shield, for example, which has kind of been the go-to pick at 2 now, is going to get nerfed by 2%. Very light nerf, not trying to like remove it. Overclock capacitor will be buffed by 3%, so you'll have more attack speed. Oscillator bonus also buffed by 3%. And then at the 4-piece, acceleration gate we buffed, but at the same time we buffed like Orianna. We've seen Seraphine be good with this, and it ended up being a little bit too much of a buff, especially now with Orianna being playable. So we're going to nerf it right back to where it was, 35%. And then at 4-piece, the tank ones have been kind of underperforming, so Gigantification Ray and Kinetic Barrier are going to get buffed just a little bit. Overall, should make for a little bit more balanced Piltover.
Yeah, I mean, these changes also sound like it makes sense. I don't think anyone's excited about playing vertical Path of Blades, but Mort is right. Blade Master in general, because the chance to proc also gives you a chance to proc, similar to why Prismatic Ticket could be insane. You can chain the roll into the roll into the roll. Same thing, you chain the attack into the attack. And Blade Master in the past, in previous sets, I'm thinking like set 1, 2, and 3 has been actually quite overpowered at times. So I think they're just a little bit hesitant about it. So it doesn't look like that crazy, but you have to remember the way that it can have that damage go crazy. And then Gunslinger, so they're buffing MF, they're buffing Tom Kench. I mean, Temple Build Runner might actually have some real legs to it. This also is a little buff to Warwick's best setup, which is Gunslinger emblem on the Warwick as well. So just keep that in mind. Piltover, I mean, these changes all make sense. Blast Shield and Acceleration Gate, too good. They didn't change Continuum Cogs, which I think is a smart thing, because I think you don't want to nerf Acceleration Gate and the Continuum Cogs. That makes the APMs worse. And who knows, maybe this ends up being good, because I know I've never even clicked Kinetic Barrier and been happy about it yet. So, maybe all these little buffs help. And, if they change T-Hex, it also could make Piltover and T-Hex maybe even better again, because I know Gigantification Ray, back when we were playing around T-Hex, was actually good, I think, according to Solus. So maybe ends up being good again. We'll see.
All right, on the champion side, after the Jin rework, we're pretty happy that he isn't really required to build Ginsu's, and the gap between Ginsu's and non-Ginsu's Jin isn't so crazy. That being said, he ended up tiny bit weak here, so he's going to get about a 7% buff to his spell damage.
Wait, he's weak?
Should be pretty good. Sona, man, I wish we didn't have to do this change. I feel like Sona has been a really healthy one-cost reroll, but the heal is just a little much for Vertical Demacia. The amount of effective health they're getting from it just ends up being too much. It stalls out fights in kind of an unhealthy way.
Yeah.
So again, going with the very lightest heal nerf we could. If Sona reroll somehow becomes unplayable, promise we'll buff it back up. But we just wanted to bring that down a microscopic bit on only the heal. No damage nerf or anything like that. Just so that fights actually end and Garens can actually be killed. Bard reroll, we want Bard reroll to be a thing that you can play. And it can at lower elos, but at high elo, not really. So he's going to get a bit of a spell damage buff here. It's nothing too crazy, but even at 1 and 2 star, should help you stabilize a bit if you want to go down that Bard line. Tristana, no one really rerolls Tristana. Tristana is totally fine as a high pace option. Play Yordle, move the items later. But 3 stars not really that good. So 3 star is going to get a bit of a buff here. And then Xin Zhao, man, even if you play reroll Yasuo, you don't want this guy, which is not really a great sign. So we're going to buff up his spell heal so he can compete with the other 2-cost tanks.
That doesn't change anything with the Zahen hero augment, right? Because it's a different Xin Zhao entirely, so I think that's fine. The Sona, it's because of the double Archangels. You might think that it's like, well, why is the spell heal getting nerfed like this? It's because the optimal builds around Sona is like the scaling AP, so it just gets out of control very quickly. It is pretty funny. The timing of this Bard nerf, it does look kind of funny, given that we just watched Bard reroll win a lot of games. It's funny though, because how much of that is that Bard versus Ishtel accelerating it? Because Ishtel gives free items, because you're getting Nidalee, and because you're getting so many rerolls, you're hitting Nico and stuff like that. So is that because Bard is good? Bard's not really played in other rerolls at the moment, but Bard Ishtel in particular is quite good, and you can see why a lot of players really value that. I was surprised that Jin was weak. I thought Jin was in a fine spot. You kind of need to have 2-star Jin, otherwise you're not really going to kill that much. I'm surprised that they're a little bit weak. There's also like they're also buffing Path of Blades. And someone told me that Jin is actually good if you get like a worth the wait Jin and his Path of Blades, you can play like a Jin 3 carry. It's actually kind of good. I wonder if there's something there. I'm not sure. But we'll see. We'll see.
All right, Darius and Jinx. If these two had a competition for the buggiest champions in the set, I'm not sure who'd win. Darius, we found another bug with him, despite fixing one last time, where he would stop casting after executing enemies. So we fixed that bug, which should hopefully help. In addition, we're raising his bleed duration slightly so that he'll have more time to actually get off the execute.
Okay.
But in addition, we don't want that to just be like, here's a ton more free damage, Darius. He actually already does a lot for a tank. So we are nerfing the bleed damage down. So overall, this should be neutral. But again, we don't need to just be like cranking up Darius's damage. Draven. Draven, I've talked about it before, where he's like a weird shaped Jinx, where he, ramps up really, really well. So like 20 seconds into the fight, he's scary. But at the start of the fight, he's pretty bad. So we're giving him 5 more base AD. This only affects his auto attacks without the axe. But in addition, he'll be able to do a bunch more damage. So hopefully he'll be a little bit better if you get him out of a box. Gwen, we haven't really seen Gwen be very good in Shadow Isles. A lot of the times you have to rely on Viego to get you to Callista. Shadow Isles is good. It's just Gwen doesn't really serve a purpose in it other than to activate Disruptor. But we want to make sure if Gwen reroll could be a thing, or Gwen carry, and you don't feel bad for itemizing her. So she's going to get a buff to her spell, a pretty chunky buff. And then finally, Jinx. Despite the rework here, what we found with Jinx was as her attack speed would ramp up, it was possible for her to lose attack. So if you ran like Ginsu's Jinx, there'd be some times where it just felt like it wasn't quite attacking as fast as you'd expect. And sure enough, when we looked into it and then fixed the bug, we found it to be about a 30-35% buff just fixing that bug, which obviously we can't ship a 30 to 35% buff to Jinx. That would be insane. So we had to bring her back down. Now, overall, this is meant to be a buff to Jinx. 1 and 2 star are being buffed very slightly. 3 star is being buffed pretty significantly here. So hopefully 3 star Jinx is actually worth considering now. Hopefully all the bugs are finally ironed out. With both Darius and Jinx, if they're still buggy, man, like, I don't know. But we'll do what we can. You know how it is. Darius in particular, if he's still buggy, we might consider reworking his spell. But overall, this should get some of these 3-cost lines a little bit more playable.
Man, I don't know. You know how it is. You just hear how Moore's just so over it, man. Cool. Well, I mean, you have to remember they buffed the 3-cost odds. And, maybe, the base AD is pretty good for Draven. I mean, these buffs all make sense. I'm surprised that Jinx had that big of attack difference when she was casting, and 3-star Jinx would be really good. So maybe we'll see some Jinx reroll. I mean, Jinx is already getting some play in the Warwick Zon lines. You're seeing Jinx be a backline item holder. So I think that's it's promising. Maybe you can reroll Jinx as well. And they're also buffing gunslingers, like the slight buff, which helps Jinx as well. Yeah, definitely something to think about.
All right, Ambessa. Ambessa just never really lived up to compared to like Bel'Veth. Mostly because if Ambessa got stuck on a tank, what did she do? She just cast into a tank over and over. Excuse me, I think I'm getting a cold. So now Ambessa will be able to deal 40% damage to tanks. So this will make her a bit of a tank buster.
Yeah.
She won't be as afraid of getting stuck on like a Garen or a Rift Herald. So she should do a lot more damage, much more comparable to someone like Bel'Veth against tanks. That being said, we can't just give that to her and call it a day. Once she starts resetting, she can get pretty out of control. So to compensate, we did have to lower her reset. This is a minor nerf, but it just means you'll never see these crazy like chain kill the whole enemy teams anymore. She might actually have to auto once or twice. Overall, a pretty minor buff. So, all right, Lissandra buff.
It sounds
now,
like
I know what you're thinking. You're looking at this right now going, didn't we just see Seraphine Lissandra dominate a bunch and be one of the best meta comps? Why are they buffing Lissandra? Are they any good at their jobs? Do they know what they're doing? I promise this will make sense when we get to the bug fixes. TLDR, there's a bug fix with Freljord and Disruptor that was causing things to be stronger than intended that has been fixed.
Oh.
And even when that's true, Lissandra really wasn't pulling her weight, except in literally that line because it was bugged. So Lissandra is going to get a bit of a buff here so she can be more of a carry outside of lines, literally in that bugged interaction. This is why Disruptor Lissandra ended up being a bit too strong.
Yeah.
Again, it was specifically if you had Freljord active as well. But that's why Lissandra gets a buff. I promise we're not crazy.
Okay, how many of you guys put Disruptor Emblem on your Lissandras? Show of hands. You guys are all bug abusers. Every last one of you. Every last one of you. I demand an LP refund instantly. Spreading roots? Oh, I guess Piltover Disruptor. I guess I'll put this on this Lissandra. I think what it was the damage amp was working. I suggested that it looked like it was double dipping. It looked like it was going crazy. I'm not sure if that's exactly what the bug is. I don't even know what it is, but we'll see. Don't ban me, please. I think they would have to ban half the server, man.
Rift Herald gets the world's tiniest nerf here, just to get him back or get her back on track compared to like Garen and Braum. So really tiny nerf here is just to the spell health gain. Nothing crazy.
Yeah, it's based.
And then finally, Yunara. Yunara is going to get a bit of a nerf here. This is because, frankly, we missed the localization check-in to do the nerf we want to do. So she'll probably get that nerf next patch. Right now, the attack speed she gains with her spell scales with AP. This is why Titans is very good on her. This is why the Prismatic one, where your front line gives you your back line AD and AP, is really good on her. It gets out of control. And if you ever tried to play Yunara without an AP scaler, she's actually fine, not that great. For now, we do have to balance around that, so she will be balanced around those kind of interactions. So we had to nerf that. Next patch, what you can expect is this number to go back up, but no longer scale with AP, most likely. So calling that out, but for now, she did need a very light touch.
Wow. I kind of like how strong Yunara is in general. It feels like she's one of the default lines that you can kind of play into, and it feels good. In general, she doesn't feel like conditional and tied to things. So they are nerfing that. One thing about this current meta is that it does feel like, for some reason, for a lot of players, they actually feel as if there aren't that many comps because they don't have like the early Demacia, they don't have the early Shadow Isles, they don't have the early Void, because you need to unlock all those different conditions. Like, what can I play? And Yunara ends up being one of those comps that people feel like they can get to. Hopefully it doesn't become one of those things where it feels like Yunara can't be played unless you hit a specific Ionia path. I don't anticipate that to be the case. That was one thing that I do like about Yunara, even though she was a little bit too prevalent and like ubiquitous across every lobby. Because what ends up happening is it feels like everything's just like a condition check, and as opposed to like you have a good spot for it, did you have like the opener for it? I don't think that's going to be the case with just a 10% attack speed nerf, but that's something to think about.
On the 5-cost side, Aatrox gets a buff. I know there's a 2-star red number here, but that first number is, even with 2 Slayer active, as Tim pointed out in the version that had no audio, that is a buff even to 2-star. 1-star was also pretty inconsistent, so this is also a buff. But basically, we're going to incentivize you even more to equip those Omnivamp items onto Aatrox and be rewarded for it. And so Aatrox will continue to get buffed up. Ornn was a big ball of health, true, but really not that scary of a big ball of health. So he gets to be a ball of health even more now, especially if you get a 2-star and equip him with some artifacts. Because remember, that 600 gets multiplied if they're artifacts, so he can have a lot of health at 2-star.
Wow.
And we were kind of tired of his spell like literally doing nothing. So remember, this spell hits the backline. So a 5-second chill on the backline should actually be pretty valuable. Hopefully any lines that are willing to play Ornn should feel pretty good about that. T-Hex. This is a lot of text to not really say a lot. But basically with T-Hex, he's close now. We're getting close. But this is going to be more damage on the first target the spell hits.
Okay.
But the same damage from missiles and the second targets that the spell hit. So basically, T-Hex should be better at getting through like a Garen or a Rift Herald, but not just burst down the back line even more. That's all those first 3 numbers say. And then second, it feels like T-Hex was very, very dependent on getting a 3-star that he could eat to get those full stats. And so we're trying to lower the gap between eating a 1 and 2-star and then a 3-star. So all the fighter, marksman, tank, and assassin 1 and 2-star numbers are being buffed so that you can get more stats out of eating those. And now if you play Piltover, the normal like go to 8 with 2 of them, find a Seraphine, and get T-Hex on 8, it should be a little more viable.
Oh no, more don't get sick.
Finally, Silas. Silas is really, really close. But and Tim brought this up, is that we might have to change his unlock condition. There's the world where that might be the case. But for now, going with a light bit of damage buff to his Cataclysm and his Demacian Justice, to hopefully make him more playable. But again, if that's not enough, we'll have to go from there. So
This conversion ratio is pretty good. If you get double, remember this is like double. You often unlock Aatrox with double Omnivamp, so it's 50% more Omnivamp to AD per Omnivamp item, which could be pretty powerful. So maybe Aatrox actually does stuff now. And Aatrox when he gets rolling with the damage is pretty nasty. So and Bessa buff, Noxus buff, Aatrox, which kind of played with the Bel'Veth and Bessa. That melee line in general is looking very juicy, is what I'll say. That line looks like it's going to be very it's already pretty good. I actually think that there's an argument that's a top 3 line in the game at the moment. It might get even better now. Ornn, I mean, yeah, they should have him do something besides just bait you into thinking you can farm one more artifact. So I'm actually a fan of it. Plus, more frontline options would be nice. It does feel like right now there's a giant. I don't like using the word lottery, but when it comes to this Swain unit, it feels like a lottery because Swain is in so many goddamn comps and you kind of need him for everything that it feels like, alternatives besides Swain and Taric would feel good. I think people are experimenting more with it, like splashing a Wukong for your Rift Herald, splashing a Garen 2 every now and then could be it, but just more frontline options would be nice. So, I think that's good. I mean, there probably is. There's a lot of units to set, so maybe I'm just bad. But I like the idea that Ornn can actually do something besides just farm artifacts. I'm not sure what to say about TX. I mean, this unit is not very good right now. I'm still not entirely sure this is enough, but they did buff other aspects of Piltover. And Dish Soap actually does believe in TX. He just doesn't believe in TX the way people play in the past. He thinks like reroll Briar, for example, as an assassin to give 100% crit chance is really good for T-Hex. And but like the way you do that is you like reroll Briar and you reroll Caitlyn, you unlock T-Hex, you eat Briar with T-Hex, then you pivot out of Piltover. It's like very convoluted. And so it's just not a consistent line. But the theory is that this assassin crit chance is like far too high. So if you give him like a bunch of crit stuff, he'll just like go crazy. It's something to think about. Who knows? Maybe it's good. Maybe we figure out something else. I'll leave it to the innovators. Silas, the number one reason why Silas is not played more, and something that I talked about before multiple times, is that it's not because his damage isn't good. It's because Demacia is too good. And as a result, you can't hit Lux and Garen 2 because there's going to be people holding it. It's very hard because the amount of gold that you have to roll to hit a Lux 2 and Garen 2 is so high because there's a Sonar reroll player and there's a Garen, there's a regular AP player. So just hitting this board, it just feels like, or hitting this unit, it feels impossible because Demacia is too good. Which is why I think ultimately Silas's problem is what more talked about, which is not the damage, it's just more the unlock conditions. It just feels impractical to get to. I mean, not to mention that even if you're in a good Silas spot, let's say you even do hit the 1 in 10, 1 in 15 games where Demacia is like uncontested. How are you gonna hit Jarvan for if you're in a spot where you need to get the J4 as well? That is like, I think people know that is actually low-key the hardest part about the quest. Hitting a J4 too when you have to go back and look for it.
Aurelion Sol. Aurelion Sol is really, really close now after the B patch. I think he ended up a little weak, but this isn't actually meant to be a big buff or anything. Really what we're talking about is the difference between playing like 6 Targon to try to get stacks and playing 4 Targon but 2 Arcanists to get more AP to do more damage to do more stacks. It was actually not correct to play Targon like at all. And don't get me wrong, the stronger comp should be the one without Targon, but if you're trying to build stacks, it should be play Targon. And so this is meant to sort of help 1-star Aurelion Sol start to get some of those stacks if he's willing to play Targon. To compensate for that, though, we are going to make him take a little longer to get that true damage and the meteors, the high cap. And then the black hole basically wasn't really possible to hit. Even in the most insane high roll games, it just wasn't there. So after the tuning, we're lowering that by 100 to at least make it possible. So again, overall, I don't expect this to move the needle that much on Aurelion Sol. Maybe just a light buff at most. So.
Okay, well, I mean, ASOL is not exactly the most consistent right now, but I will say that 1-star ASOL, if you can get to Meteors, a lot of top players insist that if you can get to Meteors with 1-star ASOL, it's still really good. But it'll be easier to scale it at 1-star. I mean, we'll see. When it says Starforger, this is for star level, right? 1-star versus 2-star. So the 1-star ASOL scales faster if you can get the Meteors. I mean, we'll see. Surely, I mean, Acel in this weekend's pro circuit actually averaged a pretty good AVP, except for the one guy that went 8th, Pakigam. But Acel in general had pretty good AVP prior to that. It was an averaging like a 3.x before that.
Some small changes. Fizz gets a tooltip change to say that he shows this isn't a behavior change. It's just showing you on the tooltip that he prioritizes non-tanks and non-fighters.
I knew it.
Clearing that up. Galio gets a buff in that his spell can now critically strike if you have a JG. This isn't like inherent or anything, but there was a bug that prevented that from being true. So now if you want to run adaptive Jeweled Gauntlet, great, be my guest.
Jeweled Lotus.
And then Rise had a bug where if his spell was heading towards a target and they died, it would fizzle. This could lead to some inconsistency issues with Rise. So we are buffing, or if we fix that bug, which technically is a buff to Rise, so calling it out as a consistency buff for Rise.
Wow, I did not know that. That's a big deal.
All right, items and artifacts. Gargoyles has been kind of underperforming. People haven't been excited to build it, especially compared to like Steadfast and Spirit Visage. So it's going to get 5 more armor and MR to hopefully help it compete. Nasher's Tooth. Nasher's Tooth was at 15 AP last patch, and we got a lot of feedback. Why would I ever build this? This item's terrible. We gave it 5 AP, which was a decent-sized swing, and all of a sudden everybody was building Nasher's JG on everything, and nothing else could compete. Okay. Which shows you how tight item balance is right now, where 5 AP can make something.
You also, I have to interrupt. You also buffed 4 Piltover, and you buffed Acel, and you buffed other things too. It's true. Yes, it's not just 5 AP, but it was also like in conjunction with other changes in the patch. And so Nashers figured out, and it's also the way items multiply off each other, so it's the double Nashers as well. So there's like a lot of things to it. But I should let it finish.
Go from unbuildable to best in slot on everyone. But we're going to pull that back. So it's going to be 18 AP instead of 20. So hopefully that makes it a little more comparable to Shojin's and Blue Buff instead of just always build Nashers. Warmog's armor just isn't as exciting as it used to be. And so the HP is going to go from 15 to 18. So hopefully Warmogs will be a little more exciting compared to those other tank items. And with all the Radiant versions, again, we're just following the format where they're double the item, so no big deal there. Then on the artifact side, Aegis of Dawn and Dusk underperforming. They get 100 more health. Hull Crusher, 10 more armor and MR. Mogul's Mail, if you get that early and can have long fights, you might generate an extra gold with another second.
Oh!
And then Sniper's Focus is the only big change here. 5 less AD and AP, so you'll do a little less damage, but 3 mana regen to compensate. So you can now put this on like casters and have bigger spell damage. So technically this makes it a little worse on like Yunara, but better on someone like Lux, for example.
Okay, so some augments get buffed from this. Solo Plate gets buffed from this. Belt Overflow gets buffed from this. I mean, obviously buffing the artifacts and stuff like that. This buffs Dragon, Golden Dragon as well. Gold every 11 seconds. That's kind of, I think Golden Dragon is actually a pretty decent augment already. And then Sniper's Focus, interesting. That's cool. I mean, Sniper's Focus is not exactly that exciting ever since they took out the range extension. And so, yeah, I think we'll see. These always make sense. Mort was saying in the comments that is because Nash's Tooth in comparison to Blue Buff and Shojin, which I understand because of the way crit works. This is probably going to be a much more reasonable number, but at the same time, Nasher's builds are still going to be good. 3
new augments to talk about, or really 2 and 1 brought back. First one is Gilded Steel. This is to celebrate our winner of KO Coliseum. This is gain 3 non-tank 5-cost champions, so you're not going to get like Ornn. If you field a 5-cost champion, your 1 to 4-cost champions gain 8% durability. So this is to celebrate the way he won with like 5 costs and Juggernauts. And so you can use this. Think of this kind of like a different type of duo queue. Instead of 2, you get 3. But instead of items, you get this 8% durability buff. You can buff up like your Braum, your Rift Herald, stuff like that, as well as the rest of your team. So it incentivizes you not to just build gates off of that, but you know, you can come up with some cool comps that get that extra 8% durability.
Gain 3 5 costs. If you field the 5 cost, any 5 cost champions are 1 to 4 costs. This is really good for verticals. It's really good for It's really good for Demacia, for example. Well, gain your one gain 8 durability. Is it only a flat 8% durability though? Probably. I mean, it sounds like it. I mean, we'll see. That's a Shyvana buff. So you basically it's basically like you get Shyvana's passive, right? Okay. I mean, I'll wait and see. It's also it's all. I'm assuming it's also 3 unique. Is it 3 unique ones? Can you get can you get a 2-star from this? Can you like theoretically get this and get like a 3-star Fiddlesticks? Non-tank, right? Or could you get the same ones? Isn't Shyvana a tank? No, Shyvana's a fighter, so you can actually get Shyvana as well. That, I mean, unique. It's unique. Okay, interesting. These augments all sound like it sound like a certain way, but then you play it's different. So maybe it's trash. Maybe 8 durability is just not that good. But 3-5 costs if you're fishing for a specific one could also be really good as well. We'll see.
Trials of Twilight 2. We hear you guys for trying to finish your lore finder that even just seeing the Zaheen augment can be kind of a challenge.
More told me about this.
So we're adding another opportunity. So at least in like prismatic opener games, you might have a chance to see him. So this is going to be gain 2 Zenjiaos and a Bloodthirster. So that will help you stabilize a lot better. Other than that, it behaves the same. You have to 3-star him. You have to wait 5 combats and then you get him. Sweet. You also get some lesser duplicators along the way to help you out.
Oh.
Overall, it's generally the same augment, just more opportunities to get it. World Runes, it's back. World Runes was a pretty hard to play augment for a lot of our players, and our higher elo players had figured out how to play it perfectly, and it was pretty overpowered. We're simplifying it a lot. The augment's design is meant to be, here's a chance to play Rise and play him even stronger than normal. So you get 2 emblems, great. And then you gain 2 XP per player combat, increase to 4 if you have 4 or more region traits active. So if you can build a Rise comp, it will help you quickly accelerate to 9, get that Rise, play Rise. Not a cash out trait, but a lot simpler for our players, hopefully.
A lot of gold.
All right. And then from there, it's a lot of very light balance changes, either on augments that no one's really been finding exciting, or lowering econ across the board a little bit. Ascension, this is meant to be a buff. It's less damage, but it happens much earlier. So Ascension is meant to be a buff here.
Nice.
If it's not a buff, we'll buff it more, but calling it now, this is intended to be a buff.
Rumble.
Rumble Hero Augment does okay at the lowest elos, but nowhere else.
Lowest.
So Rumble Hero Augment, gonna get a buff. Chaos Magic, this augment's been bad for a while, and we need more time to cook on it, so it's been temporarily disabled. Efficient Shopper, this additionally grants 4 gold now. Sweet. Commerce Core, this has been one that, especially with the 3-star 4-cost meta, has been good.
Yeah.
So 6 there. 6 more rerolls, but 2 less per turn. Epic reroll, that's a roll down. That's another one that's been enabling 3-star 4-costs, 3 less rerolls.
Yep.
And then Indecision 1 and 2 definitely help that econ situation. So lowering their gold 3 and 4. One more note for Trials of Twilight 2. This is actually, if you're curious why we're adding this is mostly because of Kent. Kent hasn't finished his lore finder yet, so he made the time to build this.
Man.
You can all blame Kent for this. So,
dude, Kent catching strays. This is just you're gonna have to try this. A prismatic versus a gold trade-off is a really big deal. So the gold is that you get the difference between a gold and a prismatic is you get a bloodthirster item and you get 3 dupes. So, I mean, that sounds like it matches kind of a heuristic of it, because if you think about like a jump up of tier, you're thinking about like the double items versus just like the components and the extra items. Maybe, but prismatic lobbies are pretty crazy. You're competing with some really nasty stuff at 2-1, so we'll see. This is cool. I don't know. I actually think World Wars has been really fun. I've been actually a pretty vocal person to think that the emblem changes have been making things really fun. I like clicking Legion of Threes and Earth's Gambit, spreading roots. As long as there's no like crazy, ridiculous, overpowered emblem interactions. And I think that it's been making the game fun. So I'm glad that this is back. I don't know how to evaluate this though. It sounds like if you can find a way to trigger it, you can just get a lot of EXP, and this might be like a good Fast 9 augment if you get like a good... It might actually be the same thing. It might actually be like if you're a good player, this will be like a lot of gold, and if you don't really know what you're doing, you're getting dizzy, you might just like have like spreading roots you might have spreading roots and that's it. So it'll be interesting. It's like spreading roots plus slamming, I guess, which doesn't even sound that bad. Yeah, spreading roots and slamming? That's like 2 gold augments. Wait a second, isn't this augment just good then? I mean, if you're getting 2 gold augments worth of value, would you rather have slamming and spreading roots, or would you rather have just a prismatic augment? That sounds pretty good on paper. Maybe this augment's actually quite good. Hard to say. Rumble Hero Augment, I'm pretty sure everyone knows it needs a buff. Lowest. He kept saying, usually he says low elo, but he said lowest. He's like hitting the people who play at Iron and Talker's Trials and normals. Actually, that is brutal. These econ ones, I mean, they're contributing to the forecast meta. I also think there's other ones that could also contribute to it. Like Honor Roll is definitely. Oh, it's actually one of two. Just kidding. Let him finish.
Sweet. All right, Jeweled Lotus 2.
There it is.
Kind of the overperforming combat augment right now.
There it is.
So it's getting lowered 10%. Living Forge, 1 less turn per artifact. Hopefully this makes this exciting to pick again.
Okay.
Max Build. This one's a pretty big nerf. Max Build was doing some pretty wonky things with 5 costs, where you would use the rerolls, duplicate your 5 costs like Volibear or Aurelion Soul, and then go from there. So now you get 10 rerolls up front. You have to wait 3 turns for the first duplicator. Then on 6-1, you get your second duplicator, but no 10 rerolls. So pretty chunky nerf here to Max Build.
Okay.
On a roll, this is an augment that our high elo players had learned to turn into a turbo good augment on 2-1 with some really silly optimizations. So we're disabling it on 2-1. We don't need it being optimized like that. On 3-2, it's a little healthier. So for now, it will exist on 3-2. And generally what we see in our stats is if you get it on 3-2, it seems pretty balanced. So leaving that alone. Reinforcement, another example of a strong econ augment. You don't need your carry and 12 gold, lowering that to 5. Right now, Spirit Visage is kind of the best tank item in the game, and this augment propels it even further. So lowering the heal on that.
Wow.
3 3s, this is another...
What do you see?
Propels it even further. So lowering the heal on that. The game, and this... right now, Spirit Visage is kind of the best tank item in the game, and this augment propels it even further.
I thought you said Spirit Redemption is the best augment in the game.
So lowering the heal on that. 3 3s, this is another 4-2 econ augment that didn't need that much gold on it, so lowering that by 5. And then Twin Guardians combat augment that hasn't been exciting, gains 10 more armor and Namar. Should be a pretty good silver.
People actually click this augment at scrims, but yeah, it's one of those things that it might be already underrated, but the positioning shift is definitely painful. Both that and Stoneplate. So maybe the solo front lines or the duo front line tank stuff is going to be better. There's also some other problematic augments. This probably confirms that things like too much value in Prismatic Ticket are not problematic in the data. But what makes what makes some of these augments really OP isn't just their individual existence, is when you can also combo them, right? On a roll with Prismatic Ticket, or like Prismatic Ticket with Commerce Core, right? That kind of stuff ends up becoming multiplicative, and that ends up becoming really, really gross. So it's the same thing as like if you have level up. If we're in a fast 9 meta and you're just clicking all the 5 costs and 7 costs, if you have like level up and hedge fund in the same stage 2, it ends up multiplying off each other. But those are kind of rare, so I'm guessing they're just going to go from here. I think this is a pretty good start for the econ augments. I mean, there are any others that they're like that they should also nerf. None of them are like coming off the top of my head, but I think this is a good start. I'm not sure if there's another econ augment that they need to tackle, because they shouldn't be killing things like Raining Gold, and they shouldn't be taking things like Slam In and Patient Study. Those are fine. It's more about the econ that lets you get the 3-star 4 costs. It's a pretty sizable nerf.
All right, bug fixes. The first bug fix is the one that is the most balance affecting here. Fixed a bug where Disruptor's damage amp would be higher than intended with units affected by Freljord's damage amp. So for example, if you had a Seraphine with 2 Disruptor and Freljord, and she was sitting in a Freljord, she was doing more damage than intended. That was the bug. That was also what was causing like Disruptor Lysandra to be too good.
Bug abusers.
So we found that bug. That's been fixed. That's why Lysandra got a compensation buff. But calling it out, this is probably the biggest balance affecting bug fix out there.
That's a huge change.
Beyond that, sorry Leduc, but Bard no longer counts 6 Piltover's Invention as a 3-star unit. Fixed a typo in Sunfire Cape. Fixed a typo in Call to Chaos's Golden Egg reward. Gwen's Scissors and Salvager no longer reset items that stack. If the champion has multiple Death Blades equipped, the Deadlier Blades augment now correctly gain attack damage on takedown. Now, this only affected the current fight. It would fix itself afterwards, so this isn't that big a bug fix. And then finally, Kaisa and Oriana's unlock conditions corrected in Talker's Trials.
Thank goodness.
So there you go.
Thank goodness.
And by the way, this rundown was only about 8 minutes shorter without Tim. So second person doesn't add that much more time. It took me a while to run through this. But But there you go. There's the bug fixes. And again, from here on out, it's supposed to be smaller patches, things that are like lightly changing. We'll continue to look at augments pretty tightly, things like that. But overall, that's the patch. We're hoping, again, this makes like 3-cost reroll playable, goes us back to like people actually going 9, finding some of those 5 costs, and even some 2-cost rerolls with like Bard and stuff like that. So that's the hope. All right. That's going to do it for me. I'm going to go take some Dayquil and see if I can fight this cold. So, yeah. All right. That's going to do it for me. Until next time.
GG's. Take it easy. Thank you, Mort. Great rundown. Take care of your health. 2 weeks at Riot. He really recorded this. As a person that's done stuff like this and recorded it twice, it is actually quite tilting when that happens. So props to him. Overall, it's actually not that big of a patch, but I think that some of the changes are pretty impactful. Like, you know, a lot of these changes have really high potential to be crazy. So we'll see. There's not like as many changes as it was in the previous patch, but I also think this patch doesn't have to go too crazy. I think they just need to like make 3 costs more viable, reroll more viable, and make it so it doesn't feel like we're all just playing the same type of game, which is like hope I hit a high roll opener and play a 4 cost, otherwise hit a low roll and hope I hit the econ to hit my 4 cost. Because I think that makes the game a little bit more static and a lot less fun. I think the meta. I think I say it's a good patch, but I say I'm bored playing it, and I think that's a pretty accurate description for a lot of people. But competitively, it's pretty good stuff for tournaments. But I also want to enjoy playing TFT. So I want the game to feel more dynamic, even though it was like less balanced before. It felt more dynamic, and I want a little bit of that to come back. And hopefully, you might be thinking like, why didn't they buff like some of the other stuff? Like, you know, Ash Trindamir's not that good, or you know, some of these other rerolls are not very good. But that by loosening the game to feel less about concentrated by level 8, we're free to disperse to other things. You could go to level 9, and people, if level 9 is good, you can roll for reroll to punish people who are greeting, and it actually creates more dynamic tempo options as opposed to like, well, everyone kind of converges around the same 4-1, 4-2, 4-3 death spiral of whether or not you're able to get into the blender and survive it. Everyone hitting 2-star 4 costs, and then ultimately get spit out the other side, and whether or not you're able to play for a top 4 or better. So hopefully those are all fixed by the next patch, and we can enjoy the rest of the set, because honestly, it's been a really good set, and I've been pretty happy about it.